Hello, hello, welcome. I am Dr. Elizabeth Cohen, and I am going to be your instructor for this class, COMM 655, Computer Mediated Communication and Professional Identity. The first thing I want you to know is I did not title that class. It is not the title I would have chosen. It was chosen before my time, though I have now been teaching it for several years, and I like the class a lot. Um, I would have maybe I would have called this class like identity and branding or something. I don't know. I haven't really thought much about it. I don't like it. The word computer mediated communication is a real word, or phrase, and it's something that in the field of communication we use a lot. Like we have a big journal for research that's called computer mediated communication, and it's like a subfield, it's a subdiscipline within the field of communication, but I don't think that anybody except communication professors knows what the heck you're talking about when you say it. I think social media would actually be a better term in general. Like all it is just like any sort of communication that happens through some sort of computer, but computer could also be, um, you know, like a phone, or it could be a social media platform, or whatever. So, okay, that's my getting off of my soapbox. But I wonder if sometimes people don't even register for the class because it just sounds so stuffy. And I do think that's a shame. But oh well, more for us, right? I don't think that's how it works, but you can read the course description on your own if you want to know more about the basics. But actually, what I will do to just kind of give you a really quick overview of how the course is organized and what we're going to be doing. There are three big modules. Like, so the modules are like the big umbrella ideas, and then you've got these little units that you can see unit one, unit two, unit three, and then the yellow here is all like this module one. Um, the modules are sort of like module one is all about just thinking about what identity is and how there are different types of identity. And we all have these different, like, we're not just one person with one identity. We are a person with a multitude of identities and they operate in different levels. And we're going to just spend some time thinking about that and what it looks like in personal and professional contexts. Then we're just going to talk about branding and what branding is. And I mean, like big, like, what Coca-Cola means when they talk about branding. We're just going to talk about branding in terms of how the field thinks about branding. And then you can see the larger module at the end, because it's larger because it expands over more units. That's where I kind of wanted to just like pull it together, where I'm like, okay, you've thought about your identity, and then you've learned about this branding thing, and now it's sort of like, okay, let's talk about self-branding. Let's talk about like which identities do we want to sort of highlight, which do we not? How do we use social media for that goal or not? So that's how the class is structured, right? It's kind of like you got two pieces of the puzzle, and then the third module kind of like brings it together where you're going to think about your own identities and what you want to show online and how to do it and stuff like that. That said, even though this is a class that is supposed to get you thinking about identity expression in professional contexts, computer mediated professional contexts, like LinkedIn or stuff like that, one thing I want to make clear is when you look at the required readings and stuff, you'll notice that like actually having social media accounts is not one of them. Um, for those of you who are looking for my social media presence, you will be sorely disappointed. You might even think I am not very qualified because who is she to teach a class on this when she doesn't have much of a social media presence of her own? Well, I'll say two things about that. First of all, it's true, I don't. And that is not because I haven't always. I used to have quite a active social media presence in various platforms and stuff like that. And years ago, I mean, now it's probably been about 10 years, I really scaled back, and it was a very deliberate decision. Actually, after I had been teaching social media to undergraduate students for a long time, I just made some personal decisions about what was right for me and my professional identity. But that's an important thing I want to mention because as a professor, I have that luxury. There are definitely certain benefits that I could reap if I had a better social media presence, but um, also the way that my career is like, how do I put this? Like, I don't have well, I mean, technically I have one, but I don't use it. I don't have like a LinkedIn page but the way that networking works in academia, it's not dependent on LinkedIn, so I can kind of get away with it. If I was in a different profession, I wouldn't have that. I'm going to say a luxury, but it's not so simple. Um, my husband's a journalist. He lives in a different world. Social media is a lifeblood for what he does. And these are all things I want us to sort of tease out. But back to the main point, I think that we are all in different places in terms of our profession and our personal preferences in terms of how comfortable or how reliant we are on using social media. So this class makes no assumptions about where you're at. I want you to come out of this class thinking about certain issues, but how you ultimately decide, this isn't going to be an applied course where it's going to be like, hey, go, redesign your X page or what X page. See, now I sound like I'm dating myself. Go and streamline all of your different social media platforms. We're not doing that, and that's not what I'm grading you on. That said, there is an opportunity for those of you who want to think about those things and better ways of doing it. You're going to get that chance. And those of you who have no interest in doing it at all, I still want you to come out with an appreciation of how it could be done, and also maybe some of the reasons that you don't want to or whatever. So I've tried really hard to structure this class for people that are like more like me, and also people who are very heavy social media users. Um, that said, I am back to the she even qualified to teach this class. Okay, aside from me not having social media accounts, I do have a PhD in communication, and I study the psychological effects of media. So, regardless of what I do, I very much enjoy studying what other people do, and that's where I feel like I can really give some things over to you, because I do understand a lot about the theory behind how people respond and what affects people's impressions when people do different types of things on professional social media. So, okay. So you don't need a social media account. If you have one, great. If you don't, that's fine. The only kind of like caveat to that is it's one of your papers, which could be optional. One of the small, there are like three papers required in this class. You have to do two out of the three, and one of them does ask you to do an analysis on somebody else's social media account, specifically like an influencer, like a micro celebrity, somebody who has some sort of social media brand that you can kind of like sink your teeth into. And you might need to have a social media account in order to access that. But I'll say this too, if you're really opposed to doing that, then just do the other papers and you don't have to worry about it. Whatever. If you're worried about accessing social media, talk to me and we'll figure out a way that hopefully we can get around your concerns so that you can at least have enough access to get what you need to get through the class. But so you don't need social media account. There's no book for the class. It's not like there's a textbook. One of my goals with this class is to actually bring in some peer review academic articles to get you more accustomed to reading that and being able to access that stuff to help you think about the things that you're doing. So I have assigned some peer-reviewed academic articles, and I'm gonna, I some of them are a little dense because us communication academics are not always great at communicating to the general public. But I do think that's part of the goal. I'm like, sort of like flexing that muscle of like having you process that stuff. So, but I try to warn you, like, hey, this reading is going to take a little bit more time than this reading and stuff like that. But here's the good news. You don't have to buy anything. I'm going to post all of this online. It's on eCampus for you. The only thing you need to get for this class is this little workbook. And when I say little, I should have brought it in. I'm not going to. I mean, it's little. It's like a little like pamphlet size, okay? And I basically it's a series of questions. It is designed for as an applied source for people to really go through the questions and think about how they would brand themselves or how they want to brand themselves or how they improve their brand and stuff. And honestly, it was like a bunch of stuff that I had wanted to introduce to this class, and this guy Thomas Allen had already done it. And I was like, well, I should just give him credit and assign this book. So I did. It's really cheap though. Just get it on Amazon. You are only going to need it for a couple of weeks, and you don't need it until the middle of the semester, which, if this is an 8-week class, that's like a month in. So go ahead and, you don't have to rush it, but go ahead and put in an order. And it's not going to be anything you have to turn in. Obviously, like this is an online class, this is a book, but at some point I will have you pick some questions out of the book to actually sort of type up your answer for and submit. So you do need that workbook, but it's not going to be something where I'm ever going to see like what you do with it or anything like that. It's like it's a workbook for your own personal use mostly, but you do need it to do some of the stuff in this class. Okay. Um, you need internet access. I no, sorry, I just laughed because I'm like, if I didn't have it in my syllabus, somebody would be like, "How dare you like demand that we have internet access?" But okay, it's an online master's program, and hopefully we all get that. Um, One thing I just actually going back, I should have said this at the very beginning. If you need anything, please just email me. If you need to talk, email me and then we'll set up a time to talk. I do have office hours that are on campus. I do teach classes on campus. I do, I prefer working from home. I have a lot of animals and I like my home a lot. I do a lot of work, by the way. I'm a good at-home worker, but I am at home a lot and not on campus. If you want to meet on campus, if you happen to be in the Morgantown area, I am happy to do so. Just give me a little notice. Otherwise, we can set up Zoom calls, we can set up phone calls, whatever. Just email me and we'll set it up. I'm really super flexible so long as I just have a little bit of notice. And I know that a lot of people in this program have jobs that, usually aren't as flexible as a college professor's. So I'm happy to work around your schedule as best that I can. Again, let's just talk it out and we can talk whenever you need. Um, Almost whenever you need. So contacting you. Okay. I'll just say contacting you. I try to um in classes with modules, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of I- I'm not going to release all of the content for the whole semester at once, and I do have reasons for that. I am concerned that if students try to just do like the whole class in like one night, um, they're gonna like do a crappy job because you won't have feedback to like do better. So I'm just like I can't do that. I want to give you some flexibility in how you do the class, but I can't do that. But what I will do is I'm going to open these modules one at a time. So there are dates here that I'm like, hey, do unit one, get it done by the 23rd. Okay, that's true. Get the next one done by the 30th. Okay, yeah, all that stuff needs to be done by then. But these are still suggested dates in that I will open up all of the content for the first module at one time. So in theory, you could do the entire module. You could do all of this stuff in the first week if you want to. All you got to think about is I got to make sure I have whatever's over here due by this date. So like these are sort of like this is how it's suggested you try to spread it out. And you can see like the second week of class, you're going to have two modules that need to be done. But again, if you want, you can do this second module at the first week and then you'll only have one module to do the third, whatever. The whole point is like you just need to focus on the deadlines for all of this content. And if you focus on that and get that done, you'll be fine. But if you want to work ahead, there is some flexibility for that. But back to me communicating with you, what I'll generally do, sometimes I might send an announcement every week and just sort of check in and let you know what's going on. But sometimes I might just at the beginning of the module just be like, hey, everybody, this is coming up. I also might try to remind you, like when you have these integration papers, which I'll talk about in a second, kind of give you a heads up with that. I'll send out these announcements, but they might be about every week. They might be about every 2 weeks. They'll just be timed with some sort of big, I'm going to say milestone and whatever you're doing. Um, okay. So on that note, um, so now you get the idea. You have these modules and you have these little units in them. So let's talk about how your grade's going to work in this class. Okay, well, first of all, you have a syllabus quiz. That's 10 points. So as soon as you're done watching this video, get the syllabus out yourself, do that syllabus quiz, 10 points, check. Okay, do that your first week. Um, but then you'll see most of the points, like almost half, are from these weekly reflection questions. So going back here to these units, every first of all, every module is going to have this is different. If you were in my social marketing class, this is a little bit different. I have a lecture video, like a summary lecture, but it covers the entire module. So it's going to cover all of these units at once. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. I can't decide. My intention actually was so that you would have a better idea of how all this stuff fits together and you can kind of see how it operates as one module. But basically, you watch the summary lecture. I cover all of this stuff, and then you have got these individual readings, and the summary lectures are going to kind of pull out the stuff I really want you to get out of these readings. So what I would recommend doing is watching the summary lecture, and then once you have an idea about the overview, going through and then checking off these readings. But the lectures are a little bit longer because it's covering multiple weeks, so it's like 30 to 40 minutes, okay, for each module, but there's only three. And after you do the readings, you're going to want to do these reflection questions. Okay. So, reflection questions one, due August 23rd. The next set, due August 30th. They could be close-ended questions, but a lot of times they're short answer. They're asking you to, reflect, okay, on the things that you've read or like how things that are talked about in the lecture or the readings apply to your life, like those types of things. Um, so that's most of your grade. They're like basically weekly assignments. Sometimes you have to do two in a week, depending on how things are sort of stacked up. Um, Remember, this class was designed, well, an 8 week class is half a semester, so there's a little bit of like doubling up sometimes. And then the other thing you need to do, and these come at the end of each of these modules is an integration paper. And that's where you actually write sort of a mini reflection paper. It's not really a research paper. It doesn't require you to go and do like formal research, like in the library or anything like that. Sometimes, though, you will have to do some legwork. Like I mentioned earlier, like the third is it the third? Um, no, actually, I think the second integration paper I'm getting them. Yeah, the second integration paper is an influencer branding analysis. So that would require you to go look at an influencer's account and then apply things that we've talked about from the module to that person's account. Okay, so it's not research with a capital R, but you do have to kind of like well, I call them integration papers because the idea is to integrate all of the things you've learned and sort of apply it to some sort of case. Um, you can read more about the specific assignments in the syllabus, and I've got some instructions on eCampus. But what I want you to just kind of see is like that's like the cherry on top of the end of each of these modules. Okay, it's at the end. But remember, you only have to do 2 out of 3. So let's say that for some reason something goes on and you can't do integration paper 2, no problem. I mean, you might get like a 0 in the grade book, but that 0 will just be dropped at the end. You just have to do that one and that one. Or let's say that you hate the grade you got on your first one. Well, go ahead and do all 3 of them, and I'll just take your best 2 out of 3. Okay, so there's just different ways of doing it. Or maybe you just are like, I don't want to, God, it would like, I don't want to write about my self-branding. Okay, great. Well, prepare ahead. Do the first 2 instead, right? So there's a lot of flexibility with that. Oh, similarly, I should have mentioned this before. Notice too, I'm only taking 10 weekly reflections. That means if there's like a unit that you can't do a weekly reflection on, because you can see back here, um, there are 11. You do have kind of a freebie week. Uh, so if something happens and you didn't get those reflection questions in, again, you'll get a zero, but that zero is just going to be dropped at the end of the semester. It doesn't count. You don't have to worry about it. That's just to give everybody a little flexibility because I know things come up. What I would recommend doing though, just like personal advice, do all of them, and then if and then you just have like at the last week of class, in October, like you just don't have to do the last set. Although I happen to think that this topic is super interesting. I hate telling you that, but here's the other thing. Same as just like with the integration papers, do all 11 of them, and if you don't like one of the grades you got on your reflection questions, then I'll just drop the lowest one. Again, it's just another way of looking at the flexibility. But yeah, all of the other stuff in this syllabus is it's just kind of like policies, like deadlines, blah, blah, blah. The only thing I guess I should say is I don't hate artificial intelligence. I don't love it either. I'm like very neutral. I use artificial intelligence. I don't I resent the fact that I have to talk about it so much now, but I guess I do. Uh, in this class, I don't want you to use it. I've thought about this a lot in all of my different classes, depending on what the nature of the class is, and it's unnecessary for the things that I'm asking for in this class. So I am taking a hard no artificial intelligence policy. That said, I always say this to students now, which is. Um, if you're actually using artificial intelligence correctly, I shouldn't know the difference anyway. So I guess another way of putting this is like if you insist if you need to use artificial intelligence to help you generate ideas or write or anything like that, then you should be skillful enough that it goes undetected. If I can detect it, then there's some sort of problem. But again, I don't mean to be like flippant about this at all because like I said, I think there's great uses to artificial intelligence, and I am in the camp that thinks that we need to do more work on helping people more effectively use it. I just don't think the assignments in this class are ones that where artificial intelligence would even be a tremendous help because they don't require much outside of the things that you already have at your disposal. You don't need to do a lot of internet searching or anything like that. So for this class, just don't use it. And if you want to read more about that, check it out on the syllabus. But okay, that's it. I know you're like, oh, that's all just like 2 hours of you rambling on. Yes, it is. But obviously, if you have any more questions, you should definitely email me and give me like 24 hours to respond. But usually I'm there if it's not the weekend, and I'm happy to help in any way I can. I am really looking forward to reading some of your work. I always learn a ton, more than any other class, about what my students are doing, which is great in an online class where I don't get a lot of like one-on-one contact. So genuinely, I look forward to learning more about you as you turn in your assignments and tell me about who you are. All right, have a great semester. Reach out if you need anything. Bye.